We're almost ready to start. Yeah. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome again at my kitchen table. Tonight we have a very special guest. Someone I know for many, many years. To me, she was Chanie the Spritzer. And now she is Chanie Belinow, living in Brazil, of all places. So welcome, Chanie. It's so nice to have you here tonight. And we're very eager to hear a lot about the beautiful things you have to tell us.
Thank you.
So let's start at the beginning. We would like to hear a little bit, I know a little bit, but for the people who are joining us here tonight, I'm sure they would like to hear a little bit about your background, where you were born and where you were raised, and what you learned from your parents.
Okay, so it's really a pleasure to be here, and brings back memories when I used to visit Holland in the summer. So it's nice to be back, even in Zoom. So I was born in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York, and my mother is a sister to Rebbetsin Sara, and
my mother,
right? Yeah. And I grew up in Crown Heights, in the neighborhood of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I grew up as an only child. I was born with a blessing of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and so I guess that's a little different experience from most of the families in Crown Heights, which are large families, blessed with many children. And I went to the Lubavitch school in Beis Rivka in Crown Heights, and growing up, what I constantly heard from especially my father, he would speak a lot about his dreams about shlichus, about going to be an emissary for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. In his situation, when he got married, when my parents married, they wrote in a letter to the Rebbe and received an answer that their shlichus is in New York. So they stayed in New York. But always at the Shabbos tables, my father would tell stories about his experiences as a young man, as a young bacher, as a youth. He would go to different cities in the United States to teach and spread Yiddishkeit. So these stories that he would tell with such a love and excitement that, to be able to fulfill the Rebbe's wishes, it really inspired me. And it was clear to me that this was what I wanted for myself, to go on shlichus, and wherever the Rebbe would send me and my husband to join in the tremendous army of shluchim around the world, to bring Yiddishkeit to every corner of the world, to bring Mashiach. So that's a little bit of how my parents influenced me, and any more details? That's enough.
You the way. Okay, very, very nice. So we have everything here in a nutshell. And we want more. Okay, so you're up in Crown Heights and you went through the system there. We have had quite a few women already on this program who also grew up in Crown Heights, so they also told a lot about it. You tell about your specific situation as an only child. Yeah, that is different than many others. and the big influence your parents had on you. But we do want to know, like, what did you do when you finished high school? Where did you go to seminary? What experiences did you have?
So for after high school, I actually I was lucky that in my 12th year of my last year of school, my last year, 12th grade, I was thinking, what am I going to do for seminary? And I was kind of in a, wasn't sure between a seminary in Canada, Montreal, or doing Gesprek, New York, staying in New York. And this was in 1994. So this was after the Rebbe's stroke, and people were still asking questions and getting answers by a nod of the head. And I sent this question in, and I got a response about going to Canada. So it was very, very special to me, because then when I graduated, it was end of the year. That's when it was Gimel Tammuz, and I felt like I really had a direction that it was the right place for me to go to seminary in Montreal. So I spent 1 year there, and then the second year I came back to Crown Heights, and I did the second year of seminary in Gesprek, which both were very special experiences with wonderful teachers, and
yeah, seminar is a very beautiful experience. Yeah, you have to do it to understand. Let's keep it to that tonight. Okay, did you got married after that, or did you start working first?
So when I came back, or when I finished seminary, actually in the second year of seminary, it was a half-a-day program. So that second year, I started working in school Machon Chana, that is for older girls that didn't have a chance to learn, right, about Judaism. So they come, and it's a 2-year program, and there are classes, full day, so 3, and between 3 and 5, not sure if it's still today like that, there was a chavrusa program, which was girls from many Gesprek girls from seminary would learn with these Machon Chana students. So I was at that time, I'm not even 100% sure. I was learning with some girls one-on-one, and I don't know if it was that year or the next year that I started organizing the program. So I would find also volunteers to do this learning one-on-one. So then I continued with the next year. When I finished seminary, I was teaching in Machon Chana, and I think it was a Parsha class, and I was doing also the Chavrusa program. So that was also a very special experience, working with girls that want to learn, and they're so inspired and excited about Yiddishkeit. So it was really, really a special year. And I think the next year, I think it was I got engaged. I met my husband. Actually, it's a very nice story with that.
We would love to hear.
So I've told the story. It's a very special story for me personally, how we see the Rebbe guiding us and giving us brachas, continuing even today. So during that year, there's a custom that people continue to write letters to the Rebbe. Some people send it to the Ohel, or you put it into a book of letters, your Getz Kodesh. So I had written a letter, and I asked a blessing for a good shidduch, to have clarity. It should be clear, the right one. And I put it into a book of letters. And obviously at the time I opened up the letters to read it, and I didn't see anything obviously clear, a blessing. There was a few letters there, and I closed the book and I left my letter inside. And a few months later, I met my husband, and we went out and we got engaged, and we set the date for our wedding for Dalet Tammuz, the fourth day of Tammuz. And after we set the date, and we're getting ready for the wedding, it was shortly after I set the date, I think it was, I somehow opened this book of letters, and I found this old letter that I had written. I don't even remember why I opened up the book, but I found this letter, and I read the letter where it was opened, the page that it was opened. And I was just astounded, because on this letter, on this page, there was a letter written to someone called Yerachmiel, the name of my husband, my chassan, which is not a very common name. And I found out that in all the books of letters, there's like 3 letters with this name written to the same person. And the date of the letter was Dalet Tammuz, the date of my wedding that I had chosen. So it was like the Rebbe giving me that bracha. Then I asked for clarity, and it was then I had the bracha, but I didn't see it. I didn't know it until after. And it was just such a feeling how the Rebbe is guiding us and with us even today. And the story doesn't even end there. After, so it was just amazing, and life continued, and we got married, and we lived in Crown Heights in the beginning. My husband went to Kollel, studying full day, and then a year and a half later, I'll tell you the details later when we get to that, but we moved to Brazil. And 10 years after we were living in Brazil, I had was coming close to my anniversary, and I had this thought that I'd love to see that letter again. Like maybe there's something else. What else did it say in that letter? And I couldn't even remember clearly which volume it was. I was searching. I found it, and I read the letter, and then I see on the bottom, sometimes on the bottom of a letter says the place where the person comes from. And I see that the man, Rabbi Yerachmiel, he was from Brazil. So I was like, wow, the Rebbe was even telling me where I'm going to end up, but I would never know at that time when I was getting married. Like, it didn't mean anything to me, the place. I didn't even pay attention. So it was just incredible that, I felt that was real. That's my letter, that special.
Yes.
Bracha.
Very special. Wow. So, and for my husband, and for the wedding date, and for the place to live, everything was in that letter. That's amazing. Wow. Beautiful. Okay, so you got married, and how did you decide, how did it happen that you went to Brazil?
So that's a good question. I never imagined I would go to Brazil. I actually, when I was teaching in Machon Chana, there were some girls from Brazil, and Brazil seemed to be like the other end of the world. Like, I had been to Europe, I have family there, but South America was this unknown, faraway place. But my husband had actually learned here for a year as a boy, a bacher. He had done a year of shlichus. So what happened was that we were looking for a shlichus, where to go. And one day I was invited to a girl that was from Chana. She was getting married. She was from Brazil. So she invited us to the wedding. So we went to the wedding. And at this wedding,
I suppose the wedding was in Crown Heights.
Right. Yeah, they got married in Crown Heights. And there was a rabbi from Brazil who came to the wedding. Maybe it was a special time of year that he was there anyway. I don't remember. And he knew this girl. I think he sent her to Bachokhana possibly, or he had a connection with this girl. So he was by the wedding, and saw my husband, and he remembered my husband because he had learned in Brazil. So he asked him, "What are you doing? What are you looking for?" So my husband told him, "We're looking for shlichus," and he said, "I'm looking to bring some couples to Brazil. I have an idea, a plan." So at that time, my husband said, I'm still finishing the year of kollel, of studying, but when I'm finished, I could consider it. So, so he left, and then I think this rabbi also.
You got stuck. You got stuck. So you said your husband said to him that he wanted first to finish the year of kollel, and then.
Yeah, and then he said, okay. He said, first he said, you lose opportunity, My husband said, look, I want to finish a year. That's what I committed to. So at the end, he said, okay, fine. And he left. And my husband had a friend that had also been in Brazil together when they were, a group of boys. And this rabbi contacted him also. I don't know exactly how their connection happened, but then my husband was in touch with his friend, and he said, "Oh, this rabbi wants to bring a few couples, so maybe you want to come." And they were talking together, and they started considering it more seriously, and they were in touch at that time it was fax, so they were sending faxes and writing letters, the details, what would be expected, and like practical details. And then it was looking like it was coming together, and we ended up we also got a bracha from the Rebbe, a letter, and then we actually, my husband traveled by himself for a few days to see the place with his friends. And I was never here before. And we made plans to come. And we moved.
Okay, so was it a culture shock for you?
So I think it helped that I did travel, and I had cousins from Holland and France, and I had met people from different places. So I wasn't so, the people wasn't like a culture shock. I think the people in Brazil are really nice people, very warm. So it was really a nice, very pleasant and nice thing to come to a place that the people are very receptive. The language, I didn't know anything, so that was a little hard. It's not similar to English, or similar to a different language that I knew already. So it was a challenge. I took lessons. My husband had an advantage that, first of all, he's from Italy, so Italian is a little similar to Portuguese, and he had been here before, so maybe he heard the language already. But we both took lessons together for around a half a year. But even after we took the lessons, I still wasn't so comfortable to speak, and it took time. It took time to slowly, I was afraid of making mistakes, and self-conscious, and I slowly, got more comfortable, and we start talking slowly, and until I eventually kind of started talking more fluently. One culture shock, I would say, was the Jewish the kosher food scene. I was used to New York, you go into a store, you have everything there, and there's a lot of everything. And here there was one kosher store, and there was like 3 items, of each. It was like I never saw a store like that. Like, it's finished, the whatever product. Like, it was so so strange. It was like hard to believe that like this exists. But so that was a little like strange. And the place, Brazil is a third world country, but it doesn't mean like people sometimes expect, you're going to see horse and buggies. But it's a city, but it's not it was also an adjustment, like, the physical city getting used to, but
What city are you living in?
São Paulo,
Okay, so that's the capital?
no, but it's one of the biggest city, I think, or it's one,
Right.
I'm not sure.
It's a big
Capital of
city.
Brasilia. It's a big city, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Okay, and what can you tell us about the Jewish community as it was when you arrived?
So when we came, we weren't the first shluchim here. So on one hand, Jewish life still, like I said, the kosher food was smaller, options and selections. But there was some kosher food, and was a Jewish school, and some shuls. But the Jewish life has really, really grown. The 20 years that I'm here, it's hard to believe. I'm saying 20 years. I remember when I first arrived, I was in a hotel kind of. So like really the first few days, I just arrived, and someone called me, and she was a English speaking shlucha that lived in São Paulo. And she said, welcome. And it was nice to hear someone that spoke English. And I just remember she said to me, oh, she lives already 3 years over here. 3 years. I thought, wow, 3 years. Like, she already speaks Portuguese and she knows everything. And I remember when I came to the 3-year point, I was like, wow, I'm already there. Now I could say 20 years. It's hard to believe. So life really changed. The Jewish life, I think, has blossomed, continued to grow. There are many kosher stores now, many more than before. Restaurants, many options. Like there was one bakery, and everything was like one. Now there's like more. And yeah, I think that there's been more shows were built, and really the community has grown, and there's still a lot more to grow because the Jewish community is very, very large. Everything's relative, but there's like 80,000 Jewish people in Sao Paulo around, and in our neighborhood where we live, there's 20,000 Jewish people. So there's, so much work still left to do, but we're hoping Mashiach comes and helps us finish off. But there's, we've seen a lot of growth, but there's more.
Yeah, there's what to do. And how many shluchim are there now in São Paulo?
So it's a good question. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe 15.
Wow. So basically you can compare São Paulo to Holland. So like the same amount of Jews, the same amount of shluchim. That's about what it is.
But I'm saying in São Paulo.
You are talking about one city. I'm talking about for whole
the
country.
Whole Holland.
The
right,
whole country is about 20, maybe 30,000 Jews. And
wow.
And yeah, there are 15, 16, 17, 18 shluchim somewhere over there. And Baruch Hashem, young shluchim coming back. So that's very nice. But it's interesting that you're talking about your neighborhood.
Right.
Amount of Jews is about our whole country.
Right.
Okay, but you are in your neighborhood, so you take care of all the Jewish things that happen there. But does it mean that in your neighborhood there's now also a bakery and a store and a restaurant and everything, like that each neighborhood created that for their communities?
So since our neighborhood is like, there's two big neighborhoods, Higienopolis and Jardins, that have a lot of Jewish people. The other neighborhoods is like there's shluchim in small areas, that sometimes it's not even a full-time, like they're there for Shabbos and they stay in the city, like closer to the schools during the week. So there's like a few places like that that are smaller. So our neighborhood, since it's so large, there's like, like a few kosher stores and, maybe two bakeries and there's even, there's a few shuls, like 3 Sephardic shuls and Ashkenazic shul and Bnei Akiva. There's like a lot of different, some are small shuls, but like there's quite a few shuls in our neighborhood. So the neighborhoods that are kind of smaller have one Beit Chabad, there. But since our neighborhood is so large and so many people, it's not even so large. It's like a lot of concentration of people in one area. So there's quite a few shuls and like Jewish, stores and things to cater for the population. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Could you share with us a little bit about the history of the Jews in Brazil?
So yeah. This my husband helped me out. He's the good one at history. There were Ashkenazic Jews that came to Brazil, São Paulo especially, before World War II. There was already, or issues of for livelihood that was difficult there, or anti-Semitism, and many came from Poland, and then there also were many that came after the war. So many came starting from zero, starting from scratch, and they build themselves up. Actually, there's a third community that nowadays it's not the largest, but it was the first community in São Paulo where the Jewish people went. It's called Bom Retiro. So that was where the first community was formed, and the people who came, these immigrants, Jewish immigrants, lived there, and they built businesses, and they started from zero, and they really built themselves up, and they made shuls and kosher stores and kosher butcher, and many Jews came from there, and Baruch Hashem, they built their lives up, and then they started moving to different neighborhoods. So nowadays they spread to these other two that are more. And then there was another immigration of the more Sephardic community in the 50s and 60s, that they came from Syria and Lebanon and Egypt, because that was when they were sending the Jews away. It was after the formation of the state of Israel, and so many Sephardic Jews came from these countries and also built themselves up here. And we have these very large Sephardic shuls in our community here. One Beit Yaakov, Safra, and one Mikar Chaim. It's a different Sephardic shul. So another one is Monte Sinai. So there's also a very large Sephardic community that's in Brazil, in São Paulo especially.
Okay, so basically you say that Jews started coming basically in the beginning of the 20th century. Okay, so for a person growing up in Holland, Brazil and Argentina is like the same country. I mean, we know it's not the same, but we see it as the same. Were there Jews earlier in Argentina, as far as you know, or it's?
I don't know. I'm not the history maven. I don't know.
Okay.
But the Brazilians
because
get offended that we confuse Argentina and Brazil because it's totally different places.
Like as if you would ask me things about Hungary. Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, I know. I'm saying that's why it's for us like, you know, oh yeah, this lady, she comes from Brazil. No, I'm not sure. Maybe it's Argentina. You know, like for us, it's
Right.
it's
What
mishmash. Okay, good. So we know a little bit about the history, and we know how it was when you arrived, and like you describe how it is now. Can you tell us a little bit more like practical, like when you arrived, what were the first things you were doing? Like what's your job? What are you being busy with?
So when we came first, one of the main focuses that we came for was teaching classes. So my husband right away started teaching in Portuguese. So I remember him taking a dictionary and looking up the words, translating. I wasn't so courageous, and so I started teaching in English. My first classes I started in English. I was teaching women, and also right when I came. So when we came, I mentioned there's a different couple that was also considering coming at the same time as us. So this other couple came from Israel. So in the beginning, we also, me and the other woman, the wife, we organized like a women's monthly gathering. So we started with that also, and eventually that it evolved into kind of an organization for a women's monthly gatherings, and that I was involved with for a few years, and then someone else continued with that, and I went on to different things. But the beginning was the teaching, yeah, classes, yeah.
Okay, and what was like you only were teaching adults or also children?
With adult women, yeah.
Okay, and that's what you're still busy with? Is it just the teaching, or did they give you something else on top of it?
So I actually, we actually have a Lubavitch school here. So at one point I started teaching also in the school. And also with the shliach, the rabbi who brought us out originally, we were no longer with him. So now we're on our own. So we're actually right now, we'll get to that later, but we're looking to grow for a bigger place, a building or something, and different things that I was involved with, mostly with women. So I did challah bake events, and I was teaching kallas, brides for the wedding. So different events, women events, yeah, and the classes. I continue to today. I enjoy what I enjoy very much, teaching. So I have a weekly class. I was doing right now. I have a weekly class on Zoom. I used to do a class also on Shabbos, but we can't have Zooms on Shabbos. So that I continue. And the events stopped because of Corona. And here in Brazil, it's still pretty much, no gathering. So those events kind of stopped, yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how your work as a shluchot changed, and how things are during Corona?
So it was very difficult, this change, because it was like everything we were used to for so many years, and suddenly we couldn't anymore. Also, just like what I was used to. We used to, every Friday night we would have a Kabbalat Shabbat, the davening, the prayers, an average of 100 people. So it was like every week, like to speak with the people and a kiddush, and so that was over. Meeting the people and having guests every Shabbos, no more, and the classes were able to be switched into Zoom, so that was able to be continued, and events also had to stop. So in the beginning, it was really, really hard to adjust, and I also had my challenge that my daughter got engaged in the beginning of the Corona in March. When she got engaged, we didn't. It wasn't in Brazil. It wasn't yet, like, it hadn't gotten to Brazil yet. Like, so we were planning a wedding in Brazil, and shortly after we came back to Brazil, after she got engaged, we already started like speaking to caterers and a hall, and suddenly we stopped because we realized that 1 minute there might not be able to be an event in a few months. And then there was like just this waiting period. What's gonna be? We had no idea. It was so unknown. So we were also dealing with that. It was really challenging. And then finally there was change of plans, and she got married in New York a little later than we had expected. But when we so one of the things that we started doing, realizing that we need to change tracks, we need to find new ideas. So it's not necessarily, many shluchim have done this, but we send like Yom Tov packages to the people. So before Rosh Hashanah, a honey cake, with the guide, with the Shabbos, Yom Tov candles, Shabbos candles. For Purim, Shalach Manis, Pesach, some things for the Seder, the ingredients for the kaira, the Seder plate. And so that was a big project, sending out packages and Shavuos cheesecake. So that was something that we started.
Can I interrupt you? Like, how many packages do you prepare for one Yom Tov?
So since it were really like our community is like, we're sending like around 150, 180 packages. We really maybe could have sent more, but right now we were without a structure of preparing the packages. So we needed a bigger place and to prepare things. So yeah, that was
and distributing, how did you distribute all the packages?
So we used like the Uber. You have Uber in Holland?
Very little, not like in, but it exists. Yeah, we know what it is.
Yeah, so that was like the best option of because we wanted to get it done in 1 day or 2 days sometimes. Right. So like this, they were to divide, and because it was around one part was in our neighborhood, but not everyone actually is in our neighborhood. Some people are a little with in the surrounding areas, and there's a lot of traffic here. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's a challenge, and you have to figure out a different way. By now we are kind of routine already. Yeah. But you still don't have shul, and you're not allowed to get together yet.
So the shuls are opened, but for small crowds, like it has to be social distancing, and maybe like 25% of the space that it could be amount of people could come in. So it's very limited, and many people are afraid. Right. But they started vaccinations here, so I think people are maybe we expect like by Rosh Hashanah time, people will feel more comfortable to go out. Because Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur was really our like high. We would have like 800 people coming for Neila. So with Corona, that really like was challenged, and we had like many people were afraid to go to shul, even though at that time of last year Rosh Hashanah, we were allowed to have the shul open. And we did with social distancing. The chairs were separated and was with masks, but still many people wouldn't even come. They were afraid. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we hope that Corona is going to be over very soon. Let's go to regular times. Are there like dreams for your city that you would love to have there that you still don't have?
So the city, in terms of the city, I think I guess I got, I'm used to, I don't need to have it the same like New York with so many options. I think like I'm okay with the kosher and the situation. But personally, like I think we have a dream for our shul to be able to grow and have its own building, and really to be able to be a space where we can have all people come. So that's a dream that I hope become a reality soon. We're looking and we're focused on that.
Okay, that's great. Maybe you can share us some stories, like some special things that happened, and maybe that you say, wow, this is why I came here for. This gives me a feeling of, I know what I'm doing here. Can you share some stories?
So one story that comes to mind, it's interesting. This was in the beginning when we first, shortly after we first arrived, there was some sort of demonstration connected with Israel. There must have been some war going on then, or maybe it was the Fada, it was a demonstration, and we had printed like a little card with some tehillim, some psalms, and it had the telephone number, the address of the shul, and this was distributed, to Jewish people there. And soon after, someone called and said that she's interested in learning more about Yiddishkeit, if we have classes. And she and some friends, she was from a Jewish school, and so they set up a class. It was 3 girls and 1 boy, and they started learning with my husband. And what ended up happening was they were really, really interested. And from these 4, the one that made the call, she found out that she wasn't actually halakhically Jewish. Her father was only Jewish, but the other friends, the 3 friends that she brought, they really were interested, and they went further, and they studied, and they all are today like religious. And one is teaching in Rio de Janeiro, different state, and one is in New York, a shlucha, and the other one is in Israel. So, and the one that's a shlucha, I spoke to her today. So it's such like seeing such transformations happen, and it's such a like realizing that we never know which encounter is how things will turn out. Like, giving a card, and someone took it, and then now she's the one that's a shlucha in New York. She has, Baruch Hashem, beautiful family, and it's just so amazing. And actually, her mother was very, very, very like a hippie and totally like no connection with Yiddishkeit. And she would when she would go to a shul, maybe Rosh Hashanah, was to the Reform synagogue, and she started coming to Tanya classes, and today she's with the shaitel, and she's 100% from. So it's and she organizes classes. Like it's really, like you said, if for this I'm here for sure. Like the feeling of it's worth it, for each neshama you see becoming coming closer, and then becoming like a candle that lights on her own, like this week's parsha, that right, the really reaching out to other people and influencing others, and it's very, very inspiring.
Wow, that's really, really beautiful. Okay. So you mentioned your daughter, but can you tell us a little bit about your family? Like I have more than one child. How is it to have a family in a place like where you live?
So it's very interesting that even though Brazil, like on one hand, it's far and Jewish life is evolving, but there are, Baruch Hashem, Jewish schools, and from when we came, that was a blessing. We didn't have to send them far away from young ages. Some shulchan have to do or teach them online, which is a challenge. So sometimes I would feel we live very far. People would say, "Wow, Brazil, you're so far from your family," and that's a challenge. Like not be close to family, but there is the advantage that the Jewish life was established already when we came. So like my first neighbor actually was a shlucha that was one of the first shluchim in Brazil, Mrs. Shendel Bigun. And she would tell me stories that she had to go to the farm to get milk and bake her own bread. There was no bakery. Like it was really difficult. Like, I think it was like 60 years ago. So that was probably when Brazil's Chabad started in Brazil. So it has grown so much. So when I came, there was, a mikveh was here and Jewish schools. And there is a small Jewish community, a Chabad community. There were already many families, Balei Tshuva. So my children have friends. So I think that's an advantage, that even though we're far on one hand, but we do have a structure, Jewish, like there is, that community that exists. Yeah.
That's very, very important, actually, that the children, they can grow up in an environment which corresponds with the environment that they get at home, with friends from same kind of houses and teachers from the same kind of houses. That's a big advantage. Yeah, so that's very special because, we say Brazil, like you say, like everybody say, you go to Brazil, but that's very nice. We don't have much time left, but maybe can you tell a little bit, because you said your husband is from Italy, like his parents are Italian, or where are his parents from?
So his mother is Swiss, and his father is originally Russian, who went away, like they escaped Russia when he was a young child, and he grew up in France. And the Rebbe sent him ashlichus to Italy. So he grew up also in a home of shlichus, and so he always jokes like we're from all over the world, we have roots.
Yeah. Well, that's actually, as we can say about Jews in general, I was speaking to someone yesterday, a non-Jewish lady, and she doesn't know much about our life. And so she asked, like, actually, how did you meet your husband? So I say, well, I was studying in France, and they are, my sister-in-law, she knew me, she suggested, and so she says, like, oh, so your husband is from France? No, my husband is from the United States, he's from New York. She came to live there. And she's like, okay, so your daughter is in Israel, and one child is here, and one child, well, that's what Jews are all over, right?
Right.
And as shluchim, you go to places where you're needed, where you can do the Rebbe Shlichus, where you can help in building the Yiddishkeit. So yeah, that's how it goes. Okay, very good. So if you want to tell something to the audience, a wish or an advice or something that they can take home with after this session of today. You have
So
some,
I think that something that I learned on shlichus, like as a young idealistic, young married woman, I imagined I'm going out to shlichus and I'm going to teach and inspire, Jewish people. And what I realized, what a great gift the Rebbe gave us by giving us the opportunity to go on shlichus, is that actually I get inspired from the people that I'm teaching. That when we teach someone and they are so excited and they are so, they take it to heart and they make it real, it gives such an inspiration to me. And I realize that is such a tremendous gift, because when you are, living your whole life, you get used to doing Shabbos and kosher, and by teaching others who it's new for them, their inspiration, it inspires you and makes it alive and keeps it new. So my message, I think like everyone should realize that each person is special. Each person has something to give. It's not like, oh, the Rebbetsin is the giver and I'm receiving, but really each person can give, and you're giving to us, and it's an exchange. It's funny that nowadays sometimes a word comes to me in Portuguese and I had to find it in English.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I thought troca is an exchange. So it's really to recognize and to appreciate that each person, to realize how they are so special and they have something to give, and they can teach their neighbors and their friends. We're all teachers, and we're all, and that's, I think, the world of Mashiach, where everyone will shine, and we'll all learn directly from Hashem and Mashiach. And
That's very beautiful. Yeah, I think that's a message that everybody could take to heart. Yes, we can all share and all teach and all help someone else and bring more light into the world. And yes, let's finish off with the wish that we should all be very soon in Yerushalayim with Mashiach. There will be peace in the world and peace for everybody and only good things.
Amen. I really want to thank you. I think it's such a tremendous idea, this weekly interview that you do. I thought it was a beautiful, original idea for Corona times. I think beautiful new things came up. That
my husband's idea.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. He prepared the whole framework, and I just have to sit. No, not totally, but almost. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much for everybody for joining from very far for us. in Brazil and those very close here in the Netherlands, and anybody else who is joining from somewhere. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Usually if it's a Dutch person, then it's in Dutch. But if it's someone from abroad, it's in English. So you're always welcome to join. And the link is always the same, so that's easy. And it's always Wednesday at 8 o'clock our time. So thank you very much and have a great evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.